this is a career-ending thing for bodybuilders. I was like torn up, dude, for months. I kept fighting these obstacles, and no matter how hard I fought, I just couldn't get on the other side of these things. And I've spent my whole life training for this specific goal, and now I can't do it anymore. What am I gonna do? Yeah, we're all so very different. There's no cookie cutter program that's gonna allow someone to look like me. I can write a diet out for someone and tell them, just go eat this for the next 5 years.
Right, exactly.
It's not gonna work. I started bodybuilding at a very, very young age. I probably started to eat and train like a bodybuilder at 13.
Really? That early?
So my dad always had weights in the house, and then as you get older, that's kind of what I got into.
Yeah. And I think people don't realize like how long it takes to build quality muscle. I've noticed that most winners of bodybuilding shows are older.
I played some sports. I played football, I played basketball, I played baseball. This is definitely the most difficult sport you're ever gonna play.
The only way you're going to grow in life is to do more than is required.
Take the extra effort.
Be the best that you can be at whatever it is that your job is. That it doesn't matter your title.
At this point of my life, I was like, man, I've got nothing else. But then I had visions of myself competing again and accomplishing goals that I hadn't accomplished yet. Then I started to think like, well, why am I having these thoughts right now? And then I figured, you know what, this is a sign. Like maybe I'm not done, and that's when, like I said, things started to just kind of turn around. And
it's like literally the vision came true. John, appreciate you coming, doing this, man.
Thank
you. Had a nice dinner the other night. Yes. Got to catch up a little bit. So
yeah.
Well, I just want to dive in first and foremost because obviously your massive physique. Sitting here, just give us a little bit of background of like, when you started bodybuilding. A little bit of like tee us up a little bit about you and where your journey has gotten you to where you are today. I'm sure that's a long story, but just give me kind of
I'll give you a quick rundown.
Yeah, the quick rundown. Because, I want to kind of set the stage and then that'll open us up to other topics.
So I started bodybuilding at a very, very young age. Very, very early on in life, my father introduced me to bodybuilding. He's a bodybuilder as well. I probably started to eat and train like a bodybuilder at 13.
Really? That early? That's amazing.
Yeah. So my dad always had weights in the house, and I would train with him whenever I could. Whatever he was doing, I would do it with him. And then as you get older, your dad is your first real influence.
Of course.
And he was always eating chicken and rice or steak and rice or whatever, and that's kind of what I got into.
Yeah.
And then I through high school, I was always training through football and basketball. I loved training.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Washington Heights, Manhattan. And, my father was not around for a little while and then came back. And then when he came back, he moved us out of Washington Heights up into Westchester County. There was a small town called Eastchester.
Okay.
And that's really where I really took off with bodybuilding because I didn't really know anyone. And so after school, I would just go hit the gym.
Yeah.
And I was old enough to like stay after school on my own and use the weight room and all that stuff. I would walk home. So that's really where my love and passion really started to grow for bodybuilding. Continued doing that all through high school, like I said, through all my sports. Whether it was football or basketball or even cheerleading I did. I remember they saw me doing some I forget what I was doing. Anyways, they were like, this guy could probably launch girls in the air really high up.
I remember when I was at Auburn, some of the cheerleaders were jacked. Jacked dudes. Because you had to hold a girl like with one arm. So
well, they specifically wanted me to throw the girls in the air. So that's what my job was. I did that for like one competitive season. It wasn't like I was on the sidelines cheerleading.
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
You're like, don't get it twisted, guys.
No, it wasn't that. But so all through sports and stuff, I just lifted a ton and then got into college. And at 17 years old, sorry, I was like, man, I want to compete. And so we started looking up, natural competitions all over the, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And I just started competing. And here I am today at almost 40 years old.
Okay.
23 years later, still doing it.
So how many shows have you done since?
I don't know.
Can't even count,
I can't
right?
even count. No.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you started like very similar to like Arnold, like,
Yeah.
because he started like super, super early.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people don't realize like how long it takes to build quality muscle.
Yeah.
Like, it's often, I think you can attest that you have way more knowledge than myself, but I've noticed that most winners of bodybuilding shows, like pro bodybuilding shows, are older.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much time to build, to put on that muscle, and then the striations and stuff, and the mature muscles look better. The quality of the muscle looks better.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
100%. Okay. We call it in the bodybuilding world muscle maturity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 100% true. The more you lift weights, the denser and harder that muscle starts to look. And not just that, I mean, through dieting and trying to bulk up and put on muscle, you learn more what your body needs.
Right.
And what is more effective for growth and what's more effective for, cutting back down. So, as the years progress, you just get better and better at your craft, like anything else.
Yeah. And you find also, I'm assuming you find like what works for you.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe that we're all different, and oftentimes things that work for me might not work for you, and vice
100%.
versa. So,
yeah. So that's the most interesting part about bodybuilding with me and having friends like that are in the industry as well. We talk shop and compare notes, and then I'll go back and try something. I'm like, oh, it actually worked, or it didn't work for me. I got to try something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're all so very different that it's hard. There's no cookie cutter program that's gonna allow someone to look like me. I can write a diet out for someone and tell them, just go eat this for the next 5 years.
Right, exactly.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, because genetics do play 100%. A huge part of it.
Yeah.
Would you say there's like any just foundational things though that no matter what genetics, no matter who you are, you can't get away with without doing?
Yeah. So
talk a little bit about those.
For sure, the bodybuilding is something that requires work ethic, right? Like you can't wake
discipline,
up. Yeah, like discipline on another level, which it crosses, right? Like it's not just bodybuilders. You're very successful in your own right. That took a lot of discipline.
Right.
And so it requires a lot of discipline. There's days that, my buddy and I were just talking today, I was like, man, I'm feeling 40. I'm feeling every bit of it.
Right.
Because there's days I get up and I'm like all achy, my shoulders hurt, but you know what? I still go do my squats. I still go do my bench presses. I mean, there's no excuses. You got to do the work.
The warm-up's a little bit longer, though?
Yeah, take a little bit longer warming up,
That's like me. Nowadays, it's like, how in our 20s, we used to just fly out of bed and just get underneath the bar and go. Like now it's like you got to do all these.
I remember squatting, getting in the squat rack and doing like 135 pounds, which is a plate for 10 reps.
Right.
Then I'm like, yeah, we'll go to 315.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
doing that anymore.
No.
Like foam rolling for an hour. I always laugh at my trainers I've got these 24-year-old trainers in there, and I walk into the gym and they're all foam rolling. And I'm like,
what are you guys
I didn't even know what a foam roll was when I was your age. Like, what are you doing?
I know.
Oh, man.
Training has become so different. I feel like a lot of with the information, the world that we live in, right, with information at our fingertips, with Instagram and all this stuff, it makes it so easy. But I think it's a lot of the information gets misconstrued, right?
Yep.
Foam rolling and all those weird stretches, they have its place.
Right.
But what happened to the days of just doing the work, doing the hard stuff, like just get under the bar and do what you got to do?
It was funny. Shout out to Lane Norton. You know Lane?
I know Lane, yeah.
Lane's hilarious. And
Lane, I got a funny story about Lane. Go ahead.
You got to tell us because he'll probably watch this. So I text him.
Yeah.
And I just sent him some waters. But shout out to Lane. He cracks me up.
Sir.
But he recently did a post about like you can cold plunge, sauna, foam roll, take 1 million supplements, get your sunlight. He just ran down all these like guru, longevity geniuses and all this stuff, you know, all of these podcasts and everybody's like, if you do this, you can. And he's like, what happened to just getting in the gym and working your ass off?
That's it.
You know, like what happened to those days?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you can't replace hard work.
No.
Like you can't.
No.
And I think to your point, like it's almost like there's too much information out there. And then, you know, one study is done. Like, you know, it cracks me up. Like I got into cold plunging and, you know, a guy's like, you know, you're not supposed to cold plunge after you work out. And I'm like, okay, just stop. All right. Look, I understand Huberman came out and said all this stuff. I said, but at the end of the day, you got to ask me, why am I cold plunging?
Yeah.
Because am I cold plunging so I can have more hypertrophy and get bigger muscles? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm actually cold plunging for this.
Yeah.
I'm actually cold plunging for mood enhancement.
Right.
I actually don't care about being big anymore. I've already been big.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah.
So if you need to build muscle, you do that. And I get you, but don't tell me I'm doing it wrong. You know, it's just, I think this one, like he also talked about, everyone says when you got to be weary of people that is like, this is the way.
Yeah.
You know, like become a vegan because that is the only way you should eat. Like these kind of like only stuff, like it's only this.
Yeah.
I think you got to be real careful with those kind of words.
Yeah.
So, but tell me your Lane story. I can't wait to hear this.
So Lane, I remember, man, this was years and years and years ago. I was getting ready for a bodybuilding competition and I was scrolling bodybuilding.com. You remember that?
Of course. What happened? Is bodybuilding.com still?
I don't know. I barely get on the internet
We'll have
anymore.
to. Yeah, I don't know if it's on there or not.
But I was scrolling the forums, and I remember being really interested by this guy, Lane Norton.
Yeah.
I would read all his stuff, and I remember, man, it's so embarrassing like, thinking back at it. So I remember I was contacting him, and he was helping me out with my, you know, build a diet.
Yeah.
So he actually helped me with one of my first diets.
Okay.
I remember my breakfast was like 2 whole eggs and like 6 egg whites, and then 2 slices of whole wheat bread and a piece of low fat cheese. That was my first, you know, diet that he helped me. So that's my story with Lane. I've known him for so long. Every time I see him, I love catching up with him. He's such a good dude.
He's a real good dude.
Yeah.
I love like he came into my gym and I love his preparation, like before he lifts.
Yeah.
You know, he
just
walks away
and
hypes himself up, and then the way his entrance to the bar is like an like a WWE entrance to the ring. Like it's so good, you know.
Yeah, he gets aggressive,
and I love stuff like that, you know, because that's an authentic version of someone.
Yeah.
You know, they're not shying away from who they want to be.
Yeah.
And there's power in that. You know?
Absolutely. So, I think more of us need to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Not specifically that, but just be ourselves.
Yeah, we don't have to lift 750 pounds or whatever he does.
Yeah.
Like he can lift, bro.
He's a strong dude. He's always been so strong, and he's always had that like very aggressive approach to lifting, which I love. I mean, I'm not like that. I'm
not either. I
quiet.
can't because I broke my back twice, so it's like those days are over with. But
I'm as quiet as a mouse in the gym. You won't even know that I'm there. I don't scream. I'm moving weight, but I'm not. I
actually think that's super impressive. Like I love the intentionality and the moving the weight slow and controlled.
Yeah.
There's beauty in that. Like
I find that so powerful when you see someone. I mean, is it gonna get you clicks and likes when you're screaming and going crazy? Maybe. Yeah. But I don't do this for the clicks and likes, man. I do it because I love bodybuilding. That time for me in the gym is really like my time. It's me working on myself and me, you know, honing in on my craft and becoming the best version of myself possible, right? So when you look at someone, at least for me, when they're just really, really engaged in the movement that they're doing, to me, I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Yeah. Especially when you're under some weight, you know?
Right.
You're squeezing 5 pounds, maybe not as impressive.
Right.
But, you know, so.
But to each his own, right? Like I tell people all the time, it doesn't really matter what weight you're using in the gym. Yeah. Because we're all of us are different. We have different levels.
That's right.
And so when I see people lifting a weight with intention. Yeah. Because I'll give you an example. I was 240 pounds playing college football.
Big boy.
And then I broke my back for the second time. And then I had a mentor of mine named Tim, and he passed away, but he was a bodybuilder, and I'm talking, we called him Oh So Swole. Like that was his nickname because he was oh so swole. He was so swole. Yeah. And I remember like being extremely depressed because football was taken away from me. And he kind of, you know, grabbed me and was like, yo, have you ever thought about, you know, doing bodybuilding and stuff? And so he's like, why don't you come train with me? And I literally went from like 240 to like 195, but I was stronger, and I looked like incredible. Awesome. And the 240 was like more like bulky, you know, like I had a 22-inch neck. I mean, it was crazy.
God.
And then the 195 was more like chiseled. And really, the only difference was how I moved the weight.
Yeah.
It wasn't. We were doing like very similar exercises and all this stuff, but he was saying, no, stop right there. No, slow down. No, do it this, you know, pull back with this. And I give people that. I call it the construction worker syndrome. Like, you know, you see all these construction workers out in Miami and they're working like hard, right?
Yeah.
But most of them have terrible bodies.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about when you're moving weight intentionally and like thinking about that mind to muscle connection.
And you burn more calories, right?
Exactly.
There's really more engagement with whatever muscle group you're training. There's more engagement in those muscle fibers when you're really putting everything you got into it,
and
rather
thinking
than just
about
throwing the weight. Yeah,
like if you're doing your chest, like thinking about squeezing your chest and not 100%. Just, you know, moving the muscle, moving the weight.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. Yeah, it's really interesting. Bodybuilding to me is one of, and I don't want to make this whole thing about bodybuilding, but it's definitely to me. And I've played some sports. I've played football. I played basketball. I've played baseball. This is definitely the most difficult sport you're ever going to play or be a part of if you don't play it. But I mean, it's a 365, 24/7 job.
I tell people that bodybuilding, because it's very misunderstood, right? A lot of people think bodybuilding's shooting up steroids and lifting weights. And that is like
small part of it.
That's this small much of it. And I think that I'll tell people all the time that bodybuilding and figure competitions and physique and bikini shows and all this stuff, it is literally you have to be the most disciplined person or at least disciplined in that season than anyone. Like, because there's no room for error. And if you think about it, like you're on that stage basically naked with these judges looking at you, so you can't
world to judge.
You know, miss a meal, miss a you know, whatever it is.
I mean, like, there are people that do, right? There are people there are people that do go into a competition prep and they, you know, they're not giving it 100%, but the elite level guys or girls, they're all in.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like if you're gonna win, if you're gonna like actually be someone in that industry, you got to be dialed in.
And it's not just one show. That's the thing. Bodybuilding is a very fickle sport. Like I was, you know, I have my own injury thing where I got really depressed, and, you know, imagine I'd been bodybuilding my whole life. My partner and I were building out the gym in Sawgrass. I told you about Fitness System. And funny enough, I tore my bicep, not in the gym, picking up my little 30-pound dog.
Wait a minute, are you serious right now?
I swear.
You were picking up your 30-pound dog and you tore your bicep. Now, it had to have been a previous injury, right? I
mean, you think of all the years that I've been clanging and banging in the gym, right? Like that thing was ready.
It was like on the verge of tearing.
100%.
Yeah.
But just the fact, I mean, I would have felt better if I tore it curly.
Of course, right.
It's the fact that I picked up my little
You hear people
dog.
Like they threw out their back sneezing in the bathroom, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah.
So I tore my bicep picking up my dog. It was rainy. It was one of those crazy rainy, like really loud thundery days here in Florida. So I'm consoling him. He's scared of the thunder. And I realized my bicep is rolled up when I put him down. I'm like, what the? I didn't feel anything. There was no pop. There was no bang. There was no pain. Nothing.
Really?
Nothing. It was ready to go.
Yeah.
So I can relate. Like I knew the feeling. Bodybuilding had been taken away from me. Like I was. It was probably one of the lowest moments.
How
of my
long
life.
were you out for?
I couldn't train for 6 months. Oof. Yeah, my doctor was the surgeon was very much against me doing anything with my arm. I wasn't even doing therapy.
And it had to be like surgically.
Yeah. So I have a scar here, and then I have a plate on the back side of my arm two titanium screws holding it in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's but he didn't even want me doing therapy, which I was kind of looking forward to. It's like, all right, maybe I can just do some band work. Now I'm watching my arm wither away. Again, probably one of the lowest points in my life. Mentally, I was just...
What year was this?
Couldn't do anything. This was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but going back to like how disciplined you need to be, it's like I still was eating my food. I was still like, if I couldn't train my left arm, I was doing my right, or my legs, or I was anything that I could do.
Right.
And that's the level of discipline and dedication really that you need to be at the top. And again, a testament to how this is one of the most difficult sports, because I could have just said, you know what, I'm just not going to eat my 6 meals a day.
Of course. No, you could have just said, fuck it. Like, I'm going to get fat or skinny or whatever.
Yeah. And I chose not to, and that's the difficult part about it. It's not like, I can't tell you, I think I went 9 years without eating birthday cake on my birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. My birthday falls on May 29th, right smack in the middle of the bodybuilding season. So I was always dieting.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely one of the most difficult sports, but I also find that it's one of the most rewarding. Definitely not something that I suggest people get into for any financial benefit, because there's not much of that, as you know.
I know.
Bodybuilders don't get paid very well.
Really pretty trophies.
Yeah. But it is what you do with it, right?
Yeah.
You can make yourself successful in other ways. I was lucky enough to partner with Sean Covell and Fitness System Sawgrass, and take advantage of the other opportunities that came my way.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of bodybuilders don't have the mindset to do that. They just see, I want to be Mr. Olympia. I want to be Mr. Olympia as bad as anyone else.
Right.
But I also want to make sure I can pay the rent.
Right.
Or pay my mortgage or put food on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as difficult as it is, and as much attention as you need to put into bodybuilding, I think it's really important for the guys watching that, if you're looking into getting into bodybuilding, I think you really need to make sure you're exploring other options as far as financial gain.
I would even say, take it even a step further, is what I find is a lot of times talented people that find their gift and then they put everything they have into it, then they don't realize that if you put everything you have into other things.
Yeah.
So in other words, the same intention, the same discipline that you apply to bodybuilding, you can apply to anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for some reason, sometimes there's a disconnect there between, like, you can put that discipline into building a business. Yeah. You can put that discipline into your social media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, I think a lot of that has to do with we want what we want and we can't see anything else other than that. And I've been there too, where almost every prep that I do, I get so tunnel visioned and focused on, like this past year, I was getting ready for the Arnold Classic. I was getting up at 5:30 every morning, and the first thing on my mind was the Arnold Classic. I wanted to win. So it was like every thought after that was, okay, I need to do my abs. I need to do my fasted cardio. I got to get my breakfast down. I got to go train my clients and then get back and get another meal in. Every thought was about that. So right. I can see how, but at the same time, having so many years experience in the sport, I was still very much aware of I got to make sure I'm making money to keep the roof over.
Well, you said it though. It was part of your routine. I got to train my clients. I got to make sure my gym is running correctly. Yeah. So, I think that's an advantage also, the fact that you own a gym and your work is kind of where you work is where you work.
Yeah.
Thank the
Lord. Yeah. Thank the Lord. I've been very, very blessed and very, very, very much lucky to be in the position I'm in.
And how else has bodybuilding shaped your life?
Well, the opportunities, I think the greatest opportunity that bodybuilding has afforded me is I've been able to travel to places that I might not have ever. I think back at when I was living in Washington Heights, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, 4 of us crammed in 1 bedroom, all of my siblings, to, I'm leaving to Italy on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I signed with a company called Yamamoto Nutrition.
What's it called? Say that again.
Yamamoto Nutrition.
Yamamoto.
They're only in Europe. But the fact that I have the opportunity to do that, like some poor kid from Washington Heights, is pretty wild. And that's not the first time. I've traveled the world. I've been to Australia 6 or 7 times. I've been to Europe, I don't know how many times, Germany, France, Italy. I've been all over, and that's pretty wild to me, and the experiences that it's afforded me in those countries, right? Being able to see different cultures and the foods and just everything about it. I think that's probably the best thing that bodybuilding's given me.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I haven't had that those experiences yet. So
you gotta travel, man.
Definitely gonna happen soon.
Yeah, you got some kids too, right? You gotta get them out there.
Yep, 4-year-old son and then a baby on the way. So
God bless.
So she'll be close to your birthday.
Yeah.
She's due May 26th.
I remember.
And then my wife's birthday is June 1st. So
wow.
You Geminis.
What a birthday present.
Yeah, exactly right. 2 Gemini females in the house.
Oh, jeez.
Everyone keeps saying, poor you, but I'm like, I don't see.
That's good.
I don't buy into that
That's
stuff.
a blessing,
anyway, so.
man.
Exactly.
Oh, the zodiac stuff.
I don't really.
You know what's funny? So many people ask me for years, like, what sign are you? I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. I'm like, oh, you're a Taurus or a Gemini. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I know, right?
But it is what
well,
it
to
is.
some people, it means a lot. So,
yeah. It's weird that some people live their lives.
Oh yeah, like based off that. Like they read their what's it called? Horoscope, I think it is.
Horoscopes,
Yeah, nah.
Yeah.
I don't do that life.
So how's everything with you? How's
amazing.
I know the baby's on the way. How's that got you feeling?
It's one of those things. I think for me, everybody asks me how I'm feeling. I'm like, it's it is just part of life. So when it happens, it happens.
Right.
You can't really prepare for something like that. I mean, you can get the house ready and you get all the baby stuff ready, but ultimately, my wife's got to do all the work when it comes to having the baby. True. So. Bless her for that. And guys, we could never have babies. Like, forget about it. We would. There's God definitely did that for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. It's gonna be cool. And
God bless, man.
It's a new season. There'll be changes. There'll be challenges. There'll be learning. There'll be growth. Like it's gonna be interesting. And then at the same time, I'm building out Little River, so the new facility, and that's and then I'm designing the Nashville location.
Wow.
So that's really cool. I can't wait to be in Nashville. I think that's going to be. I think it's going to be tremendous.
That's an area that's really coming up with
booming.
the fitness industry.
Yeah, it's what a great city. It's just a great city. Anywhere you can walk out at 9 a.m, you can hear country music, and it's a
beautiful.
Good city.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
People in Miami won't understand that, but and then the Waters. Today we met with Gold Coast, who's our new distributor. So that's the largest beer distributor in the state of Florida.
Wow.
And we're going to be their main premium, their only premium water. And so their main NA, they're non-alcoholic. And that puts us in like tens of thousands of doors probably in the next 3 to 6 months. So that's huge.
Awesome. Yeah,
and just been very, very impressed with my team. Like really impressed with, you do these things and you kind of like you were saying when you wake up and all you can think about is bodybuilding and the next show coming up, right? Yeah. Well, that's how I wake up. Like I wake up I would say it's kind of not a healthy thing. It's kind of like a panic, I wake up like, what have I got to do today? I over obsess about the business and all the things we have to get accomplished. And oftentimes you feel like you're on an island, doing it on your own. But lately, I would say really through the last 2 to 3 years, I've really felt like I have tremendous support with the team that I have around me.
Yeah.
And it's so encouraging to have people that have bought into the vision and that have applied No Days Off to their lives.
I love that.
And this whole No Days Off thing, it's something that I think people finally realize that it's bigger than me. Mm-hmm. It's bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. It's something that we can spread worldwide. Mm-hmm. And if you can get people to buy into that and to believe it and then to carry that out and be an extension of your voice and your passion or purpose that you have, then sky's the limit. So I feel like we're like, my staff will laugh, but I feel like we're just getting started, even though we've been at this for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see, what's going to happen the next, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Well, congrats, man.
Thank
I can attest to how efficient your team is. Your social media girl, Amber, was on it with me. She calling me at 2 and making sure I was heading out or at 1. I mean, emailing me last night. We're looking forward to seeing it. I love that. That's something that's really impressive.
Yeah.
And I did not expect it at all. I was just going to show up. It was cool that she was on it, and she even briefed me with some of your stuff, which is really cool. It's not something that you see a lot of in these days.
Yeah, I think preparation, breeds success. I think communication is huge, and I think a lot of times we don't. So I have this kind of rule, and I talk to her about it all the time, is that we never should assume or expect.
Right.
Because that's where we get things get falling through the cracks.
Miscommunication.
Or there's miscommunication.
Yeah.
And so for me, we always over communicate. Yep. So we have a rule. We call, we text, we email.
That's right.
So we call, and if you don't answer, then we text you. If you don't respond, we email. And it's always that way. And then there's always a follow-up, and there's always a confirmation. And if you do that throughout your whole, like everything, when it comes to the waters, the gym, the apparel, and you do that consistently, then all of a sudden you're building an organization of accountability, and then you're known. And that's one of the things Gold Coast team said. So imagine, this is the largest beer distributor in the state of Florida. I mean, they're dealing with Corona and Heineken and Miller's Coors, and I mean, massive companies. Yeah. And they said they've never seen a company as buttoned up as us.
Good for you.
So it's
good for you, man.
Talk about a
compliment.
You know what I mean?
Jeez,
and I'm the type that I don't get excited about things, I'm not one to be yay. And I've never been a fan of the congrats and the applause and stuff like that. But today it was dude, that's something teary-eyed moment, you know what I mean? Because it's you've been doing this for 15 years, and the struggle of saying, so people think that, oh, I said that already. Well, bro, you got to say it 1,000 times before hundreds of thousands of times before people buy. And I know you know that because you run a business yourself. And it's all these little things that allow you to have big things happen to you.
Right.
But people don't see the things in the dark, the little attention to the details, the dotting the I, the crossing the T,
or getting up in the middle of the night worried, okay, what do I gotta do? Yeah.
I just recently, and I know you can relate to this. So we have 6 C's of legacy, and one of them is cleaning. And because I truly believe that a clean gym is something that is not what's the word I'm
looking for? It's the way it should be.
It's the way it should be. Yes. And I think it's overlooked. And I think the importance of it is overlooked. Really, any business. I mean, quite frankly, any business.
The what's that old saying? First impressions, they matter.
They 100%
matter. You walk into a dirty gym. And
oftentimes you only get a first impression.
Right.
Because especially when it comes to gyms.
Right.
Someone's going to walk in your facility, and they're either going to love it, or it's gonna and then what do? Especially in Miami, they've got 1,000 other options.
Yeah,
they can go right next door. They can do this.
Low dollar.
Right, options. Of course. Now we have $9 gyms that they can go to. Yeah. So if you expect to collect, in our case, $250 a month, the gym better be spotless. Oh yeah, absolutely spotless.
At the very least.
There was just the other day I reached out to my staff, and I was like, so what I do is I go even further with it. So when I say cleaning, I'm talking about underneath the stairwell where you would think aren't looking, on top of the machines, where the dust actually collects, on top of the fans, all these little things that, because in my opinion, if I'm seeing it, then they're seeing it.
They can see it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always say this too, anytime I go to my chiropractor or my osteopath or an IV place or whatever, I always check the bathrooms.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I don't even need to go to the bathroom. I just go to check the bathrooms. And I always say to myself, if the bathroom is clean, then, and again, I say, everybody's going to be going to my bathrooms and judging me. So it's not perfect. No one's perfect. We're not perfect. But I would say we make a very hard effort to create an environment that's clean.
Yeah, yeah, that's how we are at the gym too. A fitness system, we take a lot of pride in having a very clean gym.
I love that.
I think it's a really important thing. Like I said, first impressions matter. You only have a few seconds when somebody walks in and they takes a scan. If dumbbells are everywhere, we both know gyms where you could walk in and there's you know,
not to name names, but LA Fitness. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but you can say
it. Shout out to LA Fitness. No.
Yeah, so you know, you walk in, it's like,
yeah,
you see weights everywhere and just broken machines and all this stuff.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, it's a disaster, and of course, those employees aren't getting paid to make sure that things are running smooth. They're just scanning people in or whatever, giving them a drink, so they don't really care.
But I would say this. Let's touch on that for a second.
Yeah.
So, if you are one of these coaches, trainers, janitors, front desk, salespeople at these other gyms, remember though that the only way you're going to grow in life is to do more than is required.
Take the extra effort. Make the extra effort.
And it doesn't matter if your boss is telling you to or not.
I agree.
If you take ownership in what you are, like, be the best that you can be at whatever it is that your job is. There's a book called The Leader That Has No Title by Robin Sharma. And it's excellent. All his books, the monk that sold his Ferrari was the first one I read, and then he has a bunch. I'll send you. Yeah, he's great. I got a slew of books. Amber will tell you it's
good,
ridiculous. I love to read.
Good, but
he says, like he talks about in the book, that it doesn't matter your title, you know, because it's and I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. also that talked about the street sweeper.
Oh yeah.
You know, just being the absolute best. If you're a street sweeper, if you're a janitor, if you're a front desk, whatever, just going about, because it might not be growth where you are, but someone might walk into that gym that meets you and sees your work ethic, and then they might bring you on to their staff somewhere else. So, you know, again, like, I don't know really where that came from, but I think I heard you say, like, when you...
Because they don't care.
Because they don't care.
Yeah, most...
Because they're not being told what to do.
Minimum wage people.
Right,
They walk in and they're like, all right, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to scan people in. That's it. They don't make the extra effort to say, hey, how are you, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so?
Exactly.
Right? Like,
because it's not the culture.
Right.
You know, because they're not being told. But I think we all can change culture. We all can make a difference. It's like we've all had the waitress or the waiter that blows us away.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That loves their job.
Yeah.
And like,
they're friendly, they're happy, they bring you drinks.
And what do? You want to go back.
Oh yeah.
You know? I say all the time, like, if you go to a restaurant and it's fabulous food but shitty service, you're probably not going to go back.
Yeah.
But if you go to a restaurant that's good food but fabulous service, you're going to go back. Well, like that place we just went to was great.
What does that speak to? Oh, yeah, that place was good.
Yeah.
But what does that speak to? The experience that the customer is having.
Exactly.
Right? So same thing, when you walk into a gym, you want to make sure and ensure that the person walking in is having a great experience. So it starts with, hey, Mr. So-and-so, how are you? Would you like a tour in the gym? And then making sure that the gym is presentable.
Yes.
That's all part of the experience.
Yeah, definitely. I love places that say hello.
Oh yeah,
that's simple.
That should be like a
Waffle House does an amazing job with it. Chick-fil-A.
Oh, I haven't been there.
Yeah, I'm sure you haven't been to a Waffle House. So I've had some National Geographic. Well, is that the right? No. What's the like world's? Oh man, you know where you break records? What is it called? Guinness Book of World.
Guinness World.
I think I've probably broke some records at Waffle House back in the day. Like we used to go there and have eating competitions.
Hammer food.
Like eating competitions. It's kind of scary.
I don't think I've ever been to Waffle House actually.
Oh yeah?
Is it like really greasy?
Oh,
like,
it's nasty. Yeah.
Is it?
But I mean,
that explains
nasty
it.
good. Like you know,
it tastes
like,
good. I'm sure
it tastes good, but it's definitely not like when they go to make the eggs, they literally pour like oil all over the grill. Like, and no telling what. It's probably vegetable if I had to guess, which is horrible for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's probably why I haven't been.
Man, I was telling my wife to make sure that she doesn't get any snacks for my son that has seed oils.
Yeah.
And she calls me up. She's at Whole Foods. And she
Everything
goes, there's nothing, like literally nothing. So we had to actually join a website.
Yeah.
She'll kill me. I forgot the name of it. Thrive? Does that sound right?
I don't know,
but it's like a website that you can order food that doesn't have seed oils in it.
It's really sad.
It's like doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's really sad that that's where we're at as far as the food in our country, right?
Well,
like,
they're trying to kill us. So.
Yeah, like as far as a bodybuilder is concerned, like we're always seeking out the best foods, right? I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but like beef here in Florida is crazy. So much money.
Insane.
And it's
insane. But it's really everywhere.
And it's crap. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's crap. So I joined the website. It's called Florida Premium Beef, and that's where I get my beef from.
I gotta look this up.
Yeah, dude, it's really.
Amber, write that down.
Really,
Florida Premium Beef.
Yeah, really.
They
good.
deliver?
Yeah, they deliver right to your house, and they whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's a
What's
shame.
What's your go-to?
I like filet
Yeah.
mignon. Yeah, just because it's easier for me to eat.
And it's
soft.
lean for you.
I can chew it and get it down fast.
Yeah.
So the trick for me is like anything that can get down fast.
Because you have to eat so much.
Yeah. So I try to like.
How many times are you eating a day?
7.
7 times?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of food.
And how much steak?
I have 2 steak meals a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the chicken and
Chicken I have 3 times a day.
okay.
Yeah, and then I have eggs, first meal, last meal.
Yeah. How
And
many
then
eggs are you eating?
A shaken. I have 12 eggs.
Yeah. Have you
12.
tried duck eggs?
So I have actually. They're pretty good.
They're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
They're a little bland.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Not a lot of flavor, but I
Yeah.
just put a ton of salt on.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
They're
But you salt them up and
Yeah.
they're good. But they're huge.
Yeah, they're big.
Like-
so I have 12 egg whites and then 2 whole eggs. So
Okay.
it's 14 eggs.
All right.
Yeah.
I eat all 12 eggs.
But back to our food, it's really sad that we have to like search for healthy food.
yeah.
It's that's another business idea I have. I want to do a little bit of a grill kind of thing.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Muscle Maker Grill?
Of course, yeah. That was big in Birmingham, Alabama.
Really?
Yeah.
They were big in Northeast.
Okay.
I don't find anything down
Yeah.
here.
They also had they had this place, I don't know if it still exists, but it was called, and I'm sure it's not as healthy now. See, that's another thing too. Sometimes places start out healthy, and then the bigger they get, like Chick-fil-A, for example.
Yeah,
like you heard all the news about
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A changing
yeah.
their chicken, and Chick-fil-A technically was never healthy, but you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
But now even the
the
chicken's
ingredients
bad.
on the chicken. Is
Oh my
like
God, it's a disaster.
hundreds. I'm like, well, it's just
Yeah,
chicken.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
It's not just chicken.
Crazy.
But there was a place called Backyard Burger that was like supposed to be, organic beef or whatever. I don't know if it was, but it was delicious. They literally cooked the burgers like you would in your backyard.
Really?
Like on, coal
on
fire.
coal,
like,
yeah.
it was great.
So that's kind of an idea that I want to do. I want to get like organic, meats and
Yeah.
food that is actually healthy and offer that to, we don't have anything like that here.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of a project that I'm going to be working on soon. I want to see if I can get some funding together to do it. But
Were you able to secure that location?
next door.
Yeah.
So that's the story I'll tell you off camera. But
right.
yeah, so they basically it's available to us, but they don't want to give us any abatement. They want us to start paying rent like right away.
Oh, man.
And I have to build out a whole kitchen and all that stuff there. And then
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you can't do that.
So I can't do it there.
And it does it have a grease trap and all that?
No, I have to do.
No.
It's
You can't.
an optometrist is there right now.
Yeah, you can't. You can't
So,
take that on. That's not a good deal.
And not even 2 or 3 months. I was
Right.
like, dude. I mean,
No,
I
you
need
would
time.
get crushed.
Yeah.
And then you got to
Before I even
pass
got
all the
started.
inspections and
Yeah.
all that. No,
Yeah.
it's a disaster.
Yeah, so we passed on it.
But just remember, anytime a door shuts like that, there's a better one open. So
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
That's how life. It's
Exactly.
funny. That's how life works out,
Yep.
right? We always. I mean, I bummed 100%. I was like, oh man, I want it to work, but it just doesn't make sense. And when you start looking at the kind of money that has to go into something like that, we're buried before we even get started.
Yep.
So
we got to make wise decisions in business. When I tell people, I say no way more than I say yes, because if all the boxes don't check with these leases, you're signing your life away.
Yeah.
So, and you have to read these leases like 15 times.
Yeah.
And then have about 10 people read them for you too.
Yeah.
And then collectively, use all your heads to make
Yeah.
sure that you're not signing your life away. Because I've had some bad leases and it's not a fun experience at all.
Really?
So, yeah. I've learned the hard way, unfortunately. Now I feel pretty buttoned up on, what to
you
sign
need
and what
and-
not
yeah.
to sign. But of course, in the beginning, it was a learning experience, what have you.
Right. So now, I remember you mentioning to me your dad was a bodybuilder.
Yeah, yeah.
Was he? Does he have some level of success on this level like you do, or were you the one that just got all this off the ground?
So, my dad did it early on. So my dad played college football also at Auburn.
Right.
And then when he got done with Auburn, actually the funny story is he met my mom at Auburn and he married my mom. And then the first time my dad brought my mom home, he was getting ready for a bodybuilding show.
Wow.
So his mom, as soon as they walked in the door, his mom looked at my mom and goes, "Are you not feeding my child?" Because imagine the last time she saw him, he was a big old football player.
He was bulked up,
and then now he's like,
shredded.
So, and then back then also in the 70s, all they knew was boiled chicken and rice.
Oh yeah,
that's all he ate was boiled chicken and rice. Yeah. That was it. You weren't allowed to look at anything
boiled
else.
Chicken
and
too.
Boiled chicken. Yeah, hear me on that boiled chicken. That grilled chicken, boiled chicken. You know how nasty that is.
Yeah.
Oh. So my dad was definitely one of those people that instilled the discipline that I have, and just taught me a disciplined life, and how to get up early, and how to make your bed, and how to clean, and how to work hard.
Yeah.
And then he was a very successful businessman also. So he took that. He was one of those guys that took that discipline of sports, of football and bodybuilding.
I love
and then
that.
and he was very successful when he had the custom suits, because he was jacked. You walked in a room.
He looked good.
And
good.
people were like,
they noticed,
like, hello, Mr. Sumner.
Yeah.
And he actually built a really cool, and so he was an investment banker in the 80s when it was like really popular to be an investment banker. Like that was one of the top jobs.
Right.
But then in the 90s, it was one of the worst, late 90s, it became one of the worst jobs to be because of the market or whatever.
Right.
So he struggled in that, and I watched him, struggle for that. And now he's actually starting to do a bioenergy business with wood pellets. So a renewable energy company.
Very cool.
He's been trying to get off the ground for years now. But I would say more than my mom obviously too, but my dad was really who instilled like work ethic and like what it looks like to commit to something.
Right.
And I was that, it sounds like much like you. I mean, I was very obsessed with things.
Yeah.
If I decided to do something,
You went for it.
I just went.
Yeah.
And so football was like that. And then also too, being told I can't do something.
Oh,
for
that
some
drove you
reason
even
that
more.
always was like, oh really? Like, so when I broke my back the first time, the doctors, so that was my junior year in high school.
How did you break it?
Football, it was a hairline fracture. So it wasn't like a hit or a thing. I truly believe it was lifting weights. I truly believe they had us lifting like so stupid
Crazy,
back then.
yeah.
Doing like 500-pound box squats as a 15-year-old.
Oh, Jesus.
Like that. What are you doing? Like it
I
was just
remember
stupid.
squatting 405 at 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I look back now, I'm like, that can't be good.
Exactly.
And it was
Because
for
you're
a
still
1 rep
growing.
max.
Right.
But they were pushing us like, who can do the most? Who can do the most? So
Exactly.
I
look back at our form too. Was
Oh God,
horrible.
I must have got it up and it was probably horrendous looking at it.
Yep.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, I truly believe that's what happened is I was lifting. So I have a long torso.
Yeah.
And I have little joints, but big muscles.
Right.
So they say that's great for bodybuilding,
It is.
but in sports.
Yeah.
But it's injury prone too.
Yeah.
And my dad and I have the same kind of build.
Yeah.
Skinny feet, little ankles, little wrists,
Yeah.
but big muscles.
Right.
So what was the question?
So
again?
that's how you first broke it.
Oh, so lifting too much, hitting, and back then you hit with your head.
Yeah.
Like, you were taught to spear people.
Yeah.
Like, like put your head in their throat. That's
Yeah.
how,
And that
I was a
compression.
linebacker and I was a running back, and it was lots of impact.
Yeah.
So, and what's crazy is I played 9.5 games with a broken back, a hairline fracture on the back, and they misdiagnosed me. So they told me it was a pulled muscle for the whole.
Were you on painkillers or something?
Well, so I remember 2 games I did like the needle was like this long of Toradol, where it masked it.
Yeah.
And like that thick. And I remember having it shot like right in my back. And then I remember like playing the game like it was nothing. And then afterwards, like I could barely walk, barely move.
Yeah. Jeez.
And I'll never forget, like there was one particular game where I couldn't get in my truck to drive home. Could not get in my truck because I had lifted,
Yeah.
I was from Alabama, so I had the
Big old
lifted
country truck.
Yeah, country truck,
Yeah.
So I went to the doctor, and then they finally did a bone scan, and then that's when they found the fracture. And then they said it. They were like, "You're never gonna play football again. You'll be lucky to walk," is what they said. And so I was like, "What?" I was like, "Nah, that's not gonna happen."
Yeah.
So then my dad took me to his chiropractor. And his chiropractor was like, "All right, we're going to get you adjusted, and then I want you to take these pills." And he gave me a bottle. It was called Bone Factor 1. And basically it was like magnesium and calcium and zinc or something, you know?
Right.
But he's like, I want you to take 6 of these a day. And so I did that. And then he goes, I want you to get as flexible as possible, and I want your core as strong as possible. So I ended up going from like 230 to like 218. I could do the splits.
Wow.
I was like, I basically changed my whole like body, and I became even better. And then all the pain went away. Then they did a bone scan again. And when they did the bone scan, you could see the layer of calcium on top of the fracture. You could see it.
Wow.
Because of how many of those pills I was taking that day.
Right.
So I basically healed myself.
Right.
Played my senior year, was defensive player of the year in Alabama, and then it's called a preferred walk-on. Awesome. So I walked on at Auburn with the scholarship guys, and then I earned a scholarship my first year. And then I was, I played behind Takeo Spikes, who's a future Hall of Famer. Wow. And then when he left to go to the pros, I was up next, and it was like I was ready to start. And that's when I broke it again. And I truly believe, and that's when it broke. Yeah. So before it was a hairline fracture, and this time it broke. Yeah. It was devastating. It was you go from thinking you're going to be an NFL player, your identity, right? You're like, it's literally all is football.
Yeah.
And then it's gone. And so you have to, find yourself or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But for me, I had some great people around me.
Good for you.
And it was like 3 months of depression.
Yeah.
And I partied, I was in college, so I partied a lot.
Yeah.
And then one day, I'll never forget, I woke up and I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not who I am. Why don't you take what was taken from you and help others not have that happen to them? So that's when I really dove into kinesiology, exercise science, health promotions, my degree.
I love that.
And by the time I was a senior at Auburn, I had more guys on the football team training with me than the strength coach.
Wow.
Yeah. So everybody was coming to the Gold's Gym in Auburn and training with me.
With you.
And then that's when the light bulb also went off, and I was like, well, maybe I have a knack at this, coaching, training thing. So let me keep doing that. So then I went to Stanford University in Birmingham, was a strength and conditioning coach for the football team.
Wow.
And started doing that, and then just fell in love with coaching.
Yeah. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
I went through that depression, like I said, when I tore this bicep and this whole identity thing, because this is actually Dorian Yates, right?
Yeah, of course.
This is a career-ending thing for bodybuilders. I was like torn up, dude, for months. Outside of that, I went through a divorce and a whole bunch of other stuff that this was the culmination. Like at this point of my life, I was like, man, I've got nothing else,
When it rains, it pours, right?
Yeah, right. That's just how it felt. Like it just I kept fighting these obstacles, and no matter how hard I fought, I just couldn't get on the other side of these things. And the gym we just started building it, so the gym wasn't making money. I was struggling financially, all this stuff. Man, it was horrible. And then again, finding myself, I remember just sitting in my room, and this is a little bit embarrassing to admit, but I think if it could help someone, I remember just laying in bed and just sobbing, and praying to God, I don't know what to do. This is who I am. What do I do from here?
Right.
And I've spent my whole life training for this specific goal, and now I can't do it anymore. What am I going to do? And from that moment, I found my faith a little bit deeper, right? I've always believed in God. I went to Catholic school as a kid and always prayed to God. But I just felt a little bit more connected in that moment. And my life started to turn around. I met my wife, and the gym started to take off, and all these great things started to happen. But I think the most important thing is, like you just said, when somebody tells you can't do something, just find that fire and keep fighting through it, and you'll come out the other side, and like I said earlier, it always ends up being better.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make you go a little bit deeper though. Yeah. All right. So you're in that moment. Yeah. You're sobbing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was a moment where God truly spoke to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it more of a get off your ass, do something, or was it more like an empathetic thing, where it was it's okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it was more of a I want to say it's almost weird because I've never really spoken about it openly, but it was almost like a weird interaction where I was having these it wasn't like God spoke to me, like I heard this voice in the room.
Well, he speaks to you in different ways.
Right.
So, yeah.
But I was having these weird thoughts in that moment where I'm like depressed and crying. I'm like, God, what am I going to do? But then I had visions of myself competing again. Right. So I'm like, but that's never going to happen. And then it would happen again. I would have another vision of me doing the Arnold or doing the Olympia or and accomplishing goals that I hadn't accomplished yet. So like, then I started to think like, well, why am I having these thoughts right now? Like,
right.
And then I figured, you know what, this is a sign. Like maybe I'm not done, you know? And that's when, like I said, things started to just kind of turn around. And, you know, thank God I just did the Arnold this past year. It's the best placing I've had at the Arnold.
Amazing.
I placed 4th.
So it's like literally the vision came true.
Almost to the T.
You know what I mean?
I'm having the best year of my career ever. I am more financially stable now than I've ever been. I have a woman by my side who I adore and who adores me.
Yeah.
I mean, I have great friends like yourself who are, you know, good. This talks about the podcast that I told you the other day. I just have a bunch of men in my life who I can look at, who are God-fearing men, who lead their families and lead their communities in the right way, right? And that I can trust and talk to about, you know, things like, I was sobbing in my bed crying, like, what do I do, you know?
Well, I think society tells us that if, you know, you're big and strong and muscles that, men don't cry or whatever. And I actually find that in those moments, and they can be, it's not like we got to be crying in front of a bunch of people.
No,
It can be in the solitude of your, you know, your room or your car or whatever. But sometimes you do need to let it go.
Yeah.
Like just whatever it is that's pinned up and all that baggage.
Worry.
The worry, the regret, the you know, the what ifs, all that stuff, the anxiety, whatever it is. And just let it go. And by letting it go, you're giving it to God. You're saying, look, I'm not, because if we're truly believers, if we're truly spiritual creatures, then it's not us doing any of this anyways. It's God doing it through us.
Right.
Now, obviously, I don't like it when people are like, I'll let the train go by, but I knew it was about to get louder and louder. It's like my backup dancer. But a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm just going to pray for it and then wait for it. Yeah. So I'm actually the opposite. I pray for it, then I go get it.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, I believe that if you have true faith and you have true favor, and so if you work, you know, with lack of better word, if you work your ass off for it, but you know that God's got your back and God's in control, then the outcome is going to be what it should be.
Right.
And what it's going to be.
Right.
So then there is no need to worry or to doubt or anything like that. So you can walk a little bit with your chest up and, you know, proud
and also
about where
I think
you're going.
there's a, you know, sometimes we just have to accept that some of the things that we want are not meant for us. Right. And we have to be okay with that. Yeah. Like, you know, for years, I remember telling myself like, oh, I want to, at you know, 35, I want to be married with kids. And, you know, anyone that knows me knows I'm a big teddy bear. And yes, I cry and I'm an emotional dude. But I wanted a family. Yeah. Right. And it was probably, I remember having a conversation with my mom, you know, 3 years ago before I met my wife, that I was going to get a vasectomy because I was just done with, number one, the dating culture here in Miami is horrible. Not very many good prospects out there that are really interested in you. They're interested in your bank account, but not you. But yeah, I was just done with that battle, right? I was like, you know, I felt like a failure as a man, right? My father had us at 20, 21, 24, and 25 years old. It was 4 of us. So obviously with my dad being such a big influence in my life with bodybuilding and so many other things that I do, I felt like I was missing the mark. You know, now at this point in my life, by 10 years, I had just gone through a divorce. You know, I was dating. Everyone that I dated just was not any, you know, I mean, I remember dating a girl that she says she prays to the stars. And I was like, huh? What? Like, this is what you believe in? And nothing wrong with whatever people want to believe, but it's just not, it's not.
Well, it has to, especially if you're going to be dating someone,
it's
it has
not
to connect
alignment,
with you. Right. Exactly.
And so I remember having this conversation with my mom. I was like, look, I just need to do this because at least I know. And she begged and pleaded, please, please, please. Now, like I said,
thank God for mom. Jeez.
Yeah. And now, like, my wife can't wait to have a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, everything happens for a reason. And like I said, like, sometimes we have to let go of how we expect things to happen and just let them happen.
Definitely.
If they're meant to happen.
And we also put these, you know, entrepreneurs especially do this all the time, is you put these timelines.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm going to do this by age this.
Yeah.
My business is going to do this by this.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I love Simon Sinek said it best, is that we're playing an infinite game. Like life can't be won.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's not a football game.
No.
Like life has to be played every single day. That's why I love, you know, no days off is because, you know, it doesn't matter if you're going to work out or you're going to the, you know, get a massage, like life doesn't stop. And then I read the other day, one of the most viral tweets was this guy wrote something about like, I lost 100 pounds at age 42. I wrote my first book at age 43. I did this at age 45. Like it was basically all his
after 40,
you know, major accomplishments were after 41.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you, like, you know, I mean, DMX was always like a big inspiration for me.
Yeah.
People didn't realize that DMX started rapping when he was like
later
12.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
but I'm saying he was rapping.
But he didn't get success until later.
He didn't get success until he's 28 years old.
Yeah.
Like his first, you know.
Yeah.
And so whatever you're trying to do, like, just know that you never know when it's going to hit, you know, when it's going to be successful.
Right.
And then,
or like I said, attaching yourself to the outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't.
You got to attach yourself to the process.
Right.
You got to attach yourself to your purpose.
Right.
You have to attach yourself to something, a cause or something that you feel like that's bigger than yourself also. Because if it's only about you, it's probably not going to work out either. You know, you got to have a support system.
Right.
And no, it's really, I love hearing these kind of stories because, you know, there's so many people out there that are like in their 20s saying, you know, it's over. Like, I haven't done anything. And it's like, wait a minute, easy, Tiger. You're just getting started. And
that's, again, that's so very true for me. Like I said, I want to say I'm going to be 40. Like I said, at the end of the month, I want to say that, I mean, even now, I mean, I'm still getting things happening. I feel like the ball is just starting to roll, you know?
Yep.
And I'm turning 40.
I love it.
You know, there are things that I wanted to happen when I was, you know, I wanted an exotic car. I love exotic cars, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have this business. And I had a supplement store in New York before I moved out of New York before my divorce. It did very well. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have this business, then I'm going to get a gym, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And I'm going to have my kids, and then I'm going to get a home, and then I'm going to get my exotic.
You had it all planned out.
I had it all planned out. Well, I'm 40. I still don't have my exotic. So I was like, oh, well.
Well, you got to put that on the dream board then.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely on the vision board.
What are we talking? What do we want?
So right now, I really like the way that Porsche GT3 looks.
Okay.
Oof. But
you can fit in that bad boy?
yeah, actually I do. A friend of mine has it, but I wouldn't get it because it is a really rough ride.
Yeah.
I do like the Ferrari F8.
Okay.
It's a little bit more, a little less expensive.
Yeah.
And a little bit more comfortable for sure. Yeah. The Ferrari F8 is beautiful, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my buddies just got a Ferrari, and you always say to yourself like, oh, I don't, you know. You know, you kind of downplay him. You're like, but then he's like, you know, you want to drive it? Oh. And then he let me drive it. Yeah. As soon as you drive it, you're like, oh, I get it now. I get it. Okay. Okay.
So for me, like my dad had a Porsche, Porsche 911 Turbo. And I was never really a car guy. Like I was always like, I like being jacked. Like that was my thing when I was a kid. And I remember he was like, you want to take it for a spin? And I was hooked, dude.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing about it for me is like, I don't even turn the radio on in those cars. I just like cruising, hearing the motor, feeling connected to the car. Those cars are so responsive. You're like one with that vehicle.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I fell in love with. It's like,
you feel like you're like glued to the ground, like to the road. It's crazy. The way they handle.
So much fun. I don't care about what other people think about it.
Yeah.
You know what car I really like? The McLaren 765.
Oh, yeah?
I like the 720 as well.
Yeah.
But the McLaren 765 is
I don't know
really
if I've
nice.
ever driven a McLaren. Yeah, I don't think I have.
Yeah.
So, Porsche, yeah. Ferrari, yeah.
Yeah. You ever drive the GT3 RS?
I don't know. I'm
That's
not
the one
good with the
big
names.
wing on the back.
No, I don't think so.
It's a track ready car.
Yeah?
Yeah. The thing is an
We actually
animal.
sponsored, what was that event, Oscar? The Porsche Speedway, where they brought all the Porsches to like.
Oh, that's
you could bring your Porsche to race it around the track.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. Like,
how
really
did that
cool.
do for you guys?
Great. I mean, good exposure.
Did you have a good time?
Good. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was hot out there.
Yeah.
But that Homestead Speedway. There's no.
Is
there's
that
no,
where the F1 event is?
Well, there was one. There was we actually did that too.
Did you this past weekend?
This past weekend, but
Oh,
then
cool.
F1 was at Hard Rock, so they
okay.
they turned Hard Rock into the F1 track.
Wow.
But they did do an event at Homestead. Neon 16 and Red Bull did an event, and we
with
teamed up with them with
Cool.
that. So yeah,
Very cool, man.
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate it.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
anytime you need me and you want me to come down, I'm
sure.
always available.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
having
dude.
me, and best of luck with everything.
No,
got
you too.
going on, bro.
And when's your next show?
So I'm
'Cause I
getting
know
ready-
you just started your prep.
Yeah, I
right?
just started. I'm getting ready for the Tampa Pro. It's
Tampa Pro?
August 2nd. And then after that, we're going to the Olympia. The big,
Oh,
the
okay.
big dance.
in October, right?
That's October.
And it's
yes,
back
sir.
in Vegas.
It's back in Vegas.
All right,
Yeah.
well,
So
Y'all keep your eyes
I'm
open.
gonna make sure I bring a no days off water. And
For sure. I'll
rep
keep
it
you,
for you
it'll
guys.
keep you hydrated.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right,
Thank
brother.
you.
Thank
bro.
you so much. I
man.
appreciate it.
Yep.